You're listening to the Cantina Cast, your home for thought-provoking Star Wars talk. Join Albert Jonesy in breaking down the latest news, trailers, movies, and of course, your favorite characters from a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cantina Cast. My name is Albert Padilla, and this is the Waystation, your source for news and rumors. Today is February 8th, and we're hot off the heels of the Q1 Disney investors call. And with me tonight is Jonesy, because we're going to try to break down what this means for Disney. I think in general, it's going to be a little bit different because it won't be so heavily focused on Star Wars, but there's a lot here to kind of ingest around some of the announcements. But we're going to talk about how that could potentially impact Star Wars, especially talking about Disney Epic, which was announced yesterday as well. So, Jonesy, welcome to the show. How are you doing tonight, my friend?
I'm doing fantastic. I mean, this is one of those shows that is maybe not terribly exciting for a lot of people when you talk about the earnings calls and all of the things they talk about financially and subscriber numbers. But I think within the context of Star Wars and where we've been at for the last year plus, 2 years now, it's actually really relevant for us to discuss a little bit about where Disney's at, where they're coming, where they think they're going. And then we figure out how to work the Star Wars stuff in, because you don't always get a lot of drops during these things or big announcements or anything like that. And we did get a few little tidbits, but it's important to be able to get all the background here so we can see where Star Wars fits in for this, for the foreseeable future as well.
Yeah. And, we're going to do our best. Of course, this is not our forte, but we keep a pretty close pulse to what's going on. We watch this stuff. Jonesy lives for it. I don't know that's kind of weird if you ask me.
This is like the best hour of my life every quarter is listening to earnings calls.
It's it's so dense too. Like when the guy welcome to the call. I mean, it's like, come on, liven it up a little bit. Even like their presentation, which I pulled some pictures of, so we're going to kind of go through this. Their PowerPoint, it's like whoever's doing the PowerPoint, it's severely lacking. Like I don't know where they went to trade school to learn it. No offense to trade schools, but their PowerPoint skills are pretty lame as well. But you would think like somebody with Disney would, spice it up a little bit, but not the case here tonight. Hey, before we get started, I know you want to say thank you to a number of folks that make this show happen.
Absolutely. All of our Patreon members, thank you so much, especially those who are now part of the tribe. So Rob, Mike Borda, Lauren, Dante, Risk, Justin Jackson, Truckman, Dan, Daz, Isabella, Uncle Leon, Josh, Jacob, and Rita Reborn. And then our Delusions of Grandeur members, our top tier, Rod, CJ, Alex, Steve, and Daz. We hope you're all enjoying all of the bonus content that we've got going on lately. We have some folks joining us in the live stream already tonight, Steph, my Star Wars Guys and Skywalkers Academy. If you're curious about all this and listen to the show, StarWars.com/YouTube if you'd like to come out and watch the live stream. The Waystation is always there for the public, as well as our Bad Batch episodes that are coming up on Thursdays are all going to be live to the public as well. And then we'll do some Patreon stuff to supplement that too. So a lot of great stuff coming up on the show here over the next several months. And you're not going to want to miss Bad Batch. You sent me a 1 minute clip today, and I was like, no, not cool. Like, no.
Yeah. Rotten Tomatoes
go watch it, people.
A,
Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah. 60-second clip. How they got the exclusive on that one, I don't know. And by the way, as of this recording, tomorrow, I think at 10 a.m. Central, because we are the center of the universe here in Austin, Texas. But 10 a.m. Central, I think there was Empire Magazine was teasing today that there's some kind of announcement. All it said was hello there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you could take that as Kenobi season 2 or just Star Wars news in general, which I think is Star Wars.
What's your speculation? I mean, this is a news show, so that's relevant for news. What's your speculation? Do you have any?
I don't think it's anything massive. I mean, I could be completely wrong. But we just had the earnings call, so why wouldn't they? I mean, they dropped a bombshell on us by announcing Moana 2 not only coming out, but coming out this year. Yeah. So, I don't know. Why would they leave Empire Magazine to do that when they could have hyped this up on the earnings call? Just seems weird that it would be really huge. Is it an exclusive, like, our first look at Acolyte? Or could it be something around, for some more in-depth information or insight into what's going on with Skeleton Crew? Like something that's already been announced feels more in line with what they would announce, but you never know with these guys. I mean, they could be trying to come at this from different fronts, and so we'll see. What do you think? Any thoughts around that?
I mean, it could be just complete malarkey too. They could just be teasing an article with Ewan McGregor for some reason.
Yeah, so, true. Yeah. That could be.
I don't know. I mean, it's very enticing when they say hello there. It clearly draws connections to Obi-Wan Kenobi in every way. So that's where a lot of people have kind of zeroed in. I don't know. I mean, you could also, I mean, if you want to go the Obi-Wan Series 2 route, you still got Riva out there. There's some other stories that are lurking in that space that you could possibly go back and revisit. But would it be more compelling than what we had in the first season and the only season? I'm not sure about that. So I'm really curious to see what this really is. I just happen to be I'm not on social media a whole lot, but saw that come across today, and I was like, I don't know about that. So we'll see, though.
I've already set my timer, so I'm all over it tomorrow, 10 a.m.
Well, it's like 10 a.m. GMT or something, isn't it?
I thought it was like 11 GMT, which I don't know. I did math.
Now we're out of our wheelhouse here. If it's not central, it's crap. So
that's what I'm telling you. Like, why are they even advertising any other time zone? It just doesn't make any sense. So, all right. Hey, let's get into this main show. Let's talk about the earnings call. So again, every quarter they do this. This is, I don't know if this is the first one. Did Iger do the Q4? He did. He did Q4 2023. So this is now his second one since he's returned.
This is the CFO's first time doing, because he's only been with the company a couple of months now.
Yeah, since November.
Right.
And I'm going to add this into, so I don't have pictures for everything at all. Like this,
I haven't seen this slide presentation. This is exciting. That's a beautiful shot.
This is about as exciting as it gets. Let me tell you, buddy, it does not get any more exciting than this. It's all downhill from here.
This is like a nice HDR picture, super saturated. This is like
super saturated
right here. Yeah,
a lot of Photoshop done to it. Yeah,
that's beautiful. Love it.
Yeah, so I think in general, like, I don't know where you want to start. Let's maybe just kind of talk about the numbers themselves, the financial news, and then just kind of wax about whether or not we think this is, well, I think everybody knows the answer. They're in a good shape, but what does that actually mean? How does that translate into, future profitability? So why don't you take us on this little journey here with math?
Well, and I didn't really want to stress there were only a few of the numbers I thought were really relevant to maybe us and our listeners and where we might want to go with Star Wars and things like that. But I think, like you said, in a summary level, the company is doing a lot better. Like they've started to turn the corner on some things. When you look at it from all encompassing, so remember they've got the parks, they've got their entertainment group, which is like their games and things like that. And then you've got your streaming, or they call it direct to consumer, DTC, and you've got your movies and all of those properties and everything that go along with that. But of course, the thing that we really start to really get zeroed in on is going to be how Disney Plus is performing, because I think for us, that's where they've been losing a ton of money. They were kind of at the forefront of a lot of this stuff. And we feel like that's where, okay, where's the investment going to be? And are we going to continue to get that investment for Star Wars content? And the good news is that the overall financial performance for the DTC stuff, direct to consumer, this is all of your Disney, your Hulu, and all of that collectively, the operating income has improved by like 86%. And in context, I think they were losing, like last quarter, they were losing like over $800 million in operating income, and that has shrunk by 86%. And they think that they will be profitable in the streaming space by the end of the year. So remember, they're reporting on the fiscal year. So that fiscal year is really, they call Q1, they just did the Q1 2024, but it's really Q4 2023 activities, right? So we're talking through the third quarter of this year, that's their year. So fourth quarter last year through third quarter this year is their fiscal 2024 year. But that's 86%. So for them to be profitable in that, and really in just a year, is pretty impressive. Like the overall revenue increased about 15%. Of course, they've got things like the pricing changes, and they're going to go in and start chasing people for the, what's it called? Like the subscriber, like the sharing of accounts and things like that.
Yeah.
So a lot of that stuff's going to happen. But what's interesting about some of that, though, is that they'll allow you to add on to an account. So if you're sharing my account today, Albert, they would give you the option of going and do it, or I could pay an extra fee and have you linked to my account. Now, pricing and things like that are not known. We'll know a little bit later this year. But the big headlines, though, with Disney Plus Core in particular, though, and if you go around, this is why I like it when we do this stuff, because you're going to read the headlines. Disney loses 1.3 million subscribers. That number is 100% true. Globally, for Disney Plus, they lost 1.3 million subscribers. Now, the important thing not to forget about is that, and they said this in the call, a big driver of that has been the price increase. But what they forecast over the rest of this fiscal year is increasing those core subscribers by 5.5 to 6 million. So think about that. You go from a 1% loss of your subscriber base to a 5% increase over the course of that year. You talk about a huge turnaround. That's a really big turnaround. And what's also important to notice is that while the direct Disney Plus gets a lot of attention, when you look at their overall core bundles, those have very low churn and they have actually increased subscribers. So people are seeing value in the bundled services, not necessarily D Plus core, right? Yeah. So, and that makes sense. And they spend a lot of time talking about ESPN and the things they want to do with ESPN, but you hear that constantly, bundling it with Fox, bundling it with, some of the Hulu stuff and, those types of things. So the bundles, as much as we've gotten away from bundles, some of these bundles, Disney has such a compelling overall landscape that those types of things make a lot of sense for them. And people find a lot of value in that, especially when you start talking about a sports bundle, because people still subscribe to the YouTube TVs and the traditional TV and cable and satellite because of sports, because it's difficult to kind of get them without piecemealing already. So they'll just go and spend the $85 to $100. Disney's going to do it. It's going to be expensive, but if it's $50 for Fox and ESPN, that sounds like a heck of a value, right?
Yeah, for sure. It is enticing, especially for people that really just want to focus on sports. And there are people out there that really want to just consume sports. That's all they do. And, positioning themselves with Fox Sports and Warner Brothers coming in with this kind of, trifecta package that they're talking about doing in the future, that's going to be appeasing for other, whether it's FIFA or the NFL or, whatever league you're talking about, that's enticing to them because that's a lot of exposure. It's a lot of viewers, a lot of subscribers. So it could position themselves to really kind of net some of the bigger leagues in the sports industry. So that's all very exciting for them. I think overall, this was a very positive earnings call, more positive than we had in a very long time. Yeah. Wall Street was buzzing. Their stock was up to 110. I think it reached up to $113 at one point that where it peaked today, I think, as a matter of fact. So all of this it bodes really well. I just want to kind of throw a couple of numbers out here because I thought there were some interesting things that stood out. He did make the comment about $60 billion being invested into the parks. Right. Over the next couple of years. I forget what it was, 5 years, 10 years, whatever that total was. But 70% of that was going to go into to enlarge the parks. So
increase capacity, right? Yeah.
Right. And then looking at the numbers for the parks, this was what really stuck out to me. So they invested $23 billion into just operating expenses year over year. So that's the same amount they invested the quarter or year over year from 2022 or 2023, sorry. And then the operating costs, which means after everything was done, what did they make from it? They made $3.8 billion. That is a huge amount of money, right, for them. And we know this. We know that the parks have really kind of been saving them. They've not been making, and I'll talk about the money here in the entertainment because that's not really where they're making their money because of the subs they lost. But there are other signs that things are starting to shift in the right direction. When you couple this news with all the announcements that they have, right? I think that's where people are getting really excited about this. At least investors are. We as consumers are excited because there's all kinds of cool content coming out. But from an investor standpoint, this is a safer bet than they were last quarter for sure, or just take any part of 2023, even taking into account all the fumbles that they had with the movie releases and the amount of losses or the no gains that they got from some of that as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I think when I forgot what I was going to say, but
let me get into the numbers. I want to throw a couple things out here.
Yeah. Do the numbers because that's where I wanted to go anyway.
And this will be quick. So the parks and experience, we've talked about that one. So again, $3 billion, that's up 8%. The entertainment, this is the movie stuff, right? So they spent $10 billion, which is they spent less, actually 7% less year over year, but they only netted $874 million. So I mean, that's about as close when your operating expenses are $10 billion and you come in at positive 874. I mean, you could consider that a break even, but in investors' eyes, that's a loss. There's not a lot of profit there. Why are we putting our money into this thing? On the sports front, that's where things are even bleaker. They spent $4.8 billion and they lost $103 million. That's, I think what they're doing now with ESPN and all that, that's probably going to shape things up a little bit. I would expect it to. I don't think that's going to be an immediate gain. It's probably going to take its time to kind of start climbing back up, but we don't really do sports here. Okay, so let's talk about Disney Plus. Disney Plus. So to your point, they lost a billion subscribers, right? And you think about it, it's like,
not a
wow, that's
billion.
sorry, million. Sorry,
Yeah.
a million subscribers. And you think about it, you're like, wow, a million's a lot of people. Their total number is 111 million, right?
Right.
You said it was 1%. 38 million of those are coming from India. So that's the Disney Hotstar in India. So there was actually a net gain of 700,000. The devil's in the details with that one because India traditionally pays a lot less than we do, right? So their per cost, their per sub revenue is much lower. So I don't know what that equates to, but maybe it's only, I don't know. It's the equivalent of maybe 200,000 or 300,000. It's less, right? In Canada and US, there was 46 million. So they lost 400,000 in Canada, US, and they lost 900,000 in Euro, which is Disney Star. That came in at 65. So you've got 46 in Canada and US, 65 million in basically Europe, and you've got 38 million sitting in India, which is a crap ton of subscribers. So all of that, I mean, like you said, I don't think it's a huge swings here. And to your point earlier about increasing that by 5%, I think that's going to go very well for them. So let me here's thoughts on that real quick. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and here's a really important addendum to that, because this is also where they look at the park revenue. And if you're a business owner, if you're a movie theater, you have the same type of thing. They have a concept called ARPU, right? Average revenue per user. And basically what that means is how much are you, dear listener, dear viewer, dear park visitor, worth to them based on how much you spend per person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where they've actually, while those subscriber numbers have dipped, that ARPU has jumped. I think, if I recall it, I want to say it was like 9% up, 8 or 9%, something like that. That's notable, right? So yes, that is, I think in the streaming space, that's more of the price increase, but it's also about finding those other subscribers that are starting to pay. And are you losing people that maybe are, a lower tier, or like you said, in India, if those numbers decrease at all, or if they change, then, or can we get the pricing up, or do we lose lower value, so to speak, customers, but we're adding higher value customers? And again, this is where the bundles and things like that come into play, because I've lost that in D plus core, but I've gained them in my bundle, and that is an uptick in revenue because that's a $9 uplift, for example. I don't know what the exact number is, but that seems reasonable, right?
Yeah.
So those are the things they look for, because they want to make the most out of every person that does anything. And much like if you go to the theater, right, you're not there just to spend the $15 or whatever to buy your ticket. They want you to buy the popcorn. They want you to buy the drink. They want you to buy a box of candy for the little ones. They want all of these things. They want to squeeze you for everything that they can, right? And it's a business. That's what they do. But those types of numbers are important because those also tell you the health of the business and the health of their customer base and what they're doing and how much money is out there for them to chase.
Yeah, no, it's that's a good point. Like that's where a lot of the bigger profit margins are in some of that stuff. So they can make up what they need to in that. Overall, I mean, let's just kind of move into talk about Bob Iger, and then we'll talk about the movie releases. He's only been in this for, again, a couple months, back after a couple months. He left in 2021. This was on the brink of, or during COVID, right, for all intents and purposes. And I know he's gotten a lot of, like, Bob, I don't want to get into a whole Bob, what's his name, Chapek kind of conversation, because that guy, I mean, you could throw, I mean, he was the man in charge, so it's all fair as far as I'm concerned if you want to throw stuff at him. But, I do feel like Bob got it, he kind of got it easy because he got to get out of here when things kind of went south. The downfall of streaming services. I mean, we're still seeing, we talk about this quite often on this show, but the downfall or the after effects of COVID and what that's done to a lot of industries, not just the movie industry, but a lot of industries, a lot of things, even like school and just our social well-being for a lot of reasons, right? We're still feeling those after effects. And I think a lot of what we're seeing here, they made some bad decisions. I'm not saying they didn't. There were some terrible movies that were made, terrible decisions made across Disney. But you couple that with what we were coming off of with COVID, and Chapek, I don't know that he really had. I mean, that was kind of a tough position to be in. So he kind of gets to kind of come in as the white knight. I hate to say that. No one's really saying that, me. But he has an opportunity here to kind of turn things around. There are a lot of people that are still upset with him even right now. I mean, I saw when I was just kind of doing research, I'm like, where are all these people wanting his head? Like, there's a ton of people that are saying, get him out of here. He's already, the dude's been in 2 months. Give him a break. Like, I can't see him he's not going to turn this around in one quarter. Things are definitely positive. Their stock is up. I mean, this is the best start you could possibly hope for as far as I'm concerned. But I think the question maybe I have for you is, he left, wanted to be out, really kind of wanted to step in. I'm extrapolating some of that from his book, which I thought was amazing and a great read if you haven't had a chance to read it. But, and then he's come back again. I just wonder, how long is he going to be in this for? Do you see him sticking around through 2024? Or do you think maybe what he's laid out here is a plan for 2026? Clearly, there's a plan for 2026 with some of the announcements and stuff. But do you think he's going to try to see that through? How much time do you think he has in this new role before he gets replaced by the next Bob Chapek or whoever that may be?
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember how long he's actually been in the role, because I think he was there long enough. I think it was for 1 year, and then they already extended him, for another year or something like that. It was like unanimous, right, of extending, and it just makes sense. And again, I think when you're in this really critical moment, I think he's here throughout 2024, and it wouldn't surprise me if he stayed at least through half of 25, and it was probably part of an advisor or something, if he started to feel like the company was back on stable footing and ready to move on. So that he would be here.
He did when Chapek came in. He was still sitting on the board.
Yeah, he was
keeping a pulse on things and going, "Don't screw this up, dude."
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we can argue how well it went, but I mean, so for him to still be around through the end of 2025, I think is still pretty reasonable. He is giving people confidence when you see the stock move like it did in a meaningful way, and when you see the energy, when you heard the overall tone of this call compared to the last several quarters was night and day difference. You felt like there was hope. You felt like there's a lot of question marks around the movies in particular, right? Because that has been like the primo problem spot. That's the most obvious to the studios. The parks are doing fine, right? Yeah, Disney World was down, but Disney World last year had 50th anniversary. So difficult to compare those numbers year on year. Every other park was up. So, and they have there's a lot of caveats to a lot of that stuff, of course, too, like with every earnings report. But, I think this is where we want to see some of that. And I think what Bob has done, and we continue to hear this on the production front, is that, look, we produced a lot of stuff, and he called out Marvel specifically. We produced a lot of stuff, and it was watered down from what our expectations are. And they did not perform like we wanted to. He didn't call them bad. He didn't call anybody out. They didn't perform to our standards of what we expect and about what our viewers demand. And that is not a talent problem. It is just a focus problem, right? And we talked about this, I think, last year as well. When he first made these comments, they're very consistent. That's what you need in a leader. I think that's what Bob Iger really does, is he really cements you and gives you focus, and he gives you confidence that we're going to stay the course. Yeah, we'll wiggle. Yeah, we'll make meaningful moves when it's required, but we're not going to panic. And he really gives you that confidence. And what you see in the numbers for this quarterly report are very encouraging, that effort and that direction and that steer from him appears to be working.
Yeah. Well,
it's only one quarter. It's only one quarter.
It's only one quarter, right? Yeah. We're not talking year or anything like that. So
yeah,
let's not get too ahead of ourselves here. So this is their graphic. This is one of the ones in the presentation. Again, I mean, come on, you're using the basic templates right out of PowerPoint.
Right.
So this is, I want to talk about just the movie releases. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out here. We're not going to get into everything. Of course, the big one for us as Star Wars fans, is the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, which has now officially been slated to 2026. It is now officially the first movie that will come out. And so that'll trump the other release for the New Jedi Order, or whatever they're going to call that, right?
Yeah.
But I guess let's just talk about anything else here. We can go off from Star Wars just a little bit, because there's some pretty exciting stuff for me on here. But what stood out for you outside of that? Again, the bombshell of Moana 2 being released here this year.
Yeah, I mean, they're really doubling down on Moana, because they're also doing a live action for Moana as well, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, and clearly they've got really high hopes for two movies in this right now. Is Deadpool 3. I think is probably going to be their shining star for the year, because Ryan Reynolds can't seem to do anything wrong. And then you've got Hugh Jackman and all that good stuff. And it's just got all the momentum from the previous ones. And I think Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is one of those. I mean, I know that's a film franchise that is kind of near and dear to you in a lot of ways, from the historical aspect. And the most recent movies have been so good.
Oh, so good.
They've been outstanding. Exactly. And so it's exciting to see that franchise continue. A couple of these maybe I might be just getting a little older. I'm not as in like Mufasa, and I mean Moana was a fantastic movie. That was actually one I was really surprised at how good it was, and so where they go with that and Inside Out too. But one thing that you'll see in this slide, though, for the most part, and Bob said this, is you're going to see them lean into existing franchises and sequels basically. So they're going to lean into their existing IPs. You're not going to see a lot of new stuff. This goes to that line of really stabilizing the company, giving people things that they can recognize and that they feel comfortable going and spending their money. They're going to get a good product and that there's a story behind it. And they feel comfortable with that, with familiar characters, right? So that's where their focus will be. And you clearly see that here with only, I think, one original movie within all of this here, right? I mean, one that's not a franchise, that's his Elio.
Elio, yeah, that's the new Pixar one. Everything else is a sequel or played on, spin-off of something else.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, and
Fantastic
the thing with
Four, but
well,
it's in such small font, you can barely even see it's sitting there between Snow White and Elio. But yeah, sorry.
Yeah, and I mean, and that one's got such a riddled past already too with Fantastic Four. But I know Captain America, I mean, that's another one that's people have been chomping at the bit. Like, what's that going to look like? Is it finally going to get off the ground? So a lot of people excited. But when was the last time you saw, really, we have to kind of take Deadpool out of this. When was the last time you saw a 3-year roadmap with only one Marvel movie in there?
Yeah, that's been a while.
Pretty insane, right?
Yeah, I mean, they've pumped the brakes, of course, on the movies, and they've moved a lot of stuff to the streaming service. They didn't talk about, I think they mentioned Agatha Darkhold Diaries coming out this year in 2024. So
right. This is just theatrical, not including D+. Right.
Right. But everything, yeah, you're right. I mean, most, with the exception of this movie and then Fantastic Four, those are the only two that are on here. Yeah. But even still, like Fantastic Four, that's the one that stood out for me. I've been waiting I don't even talk about it, how much of a fan I am of that, of the four. And relevant to this conversation and relevant kind of tie into Star Wars, Pedro Pascal is now rumored to be, he had been rumored, let's just say that. He's been rumored as a number of folks that he would be playing Reed Richards. And I think you go out, I think SAG now had him listed as potentially working. I think there was another source somewhere else had said that he was going to be working on the Fantastic Four later this year or whatever. So everything but the official confirmation is coming out now that he is going to be cast as Reed Richards, which I think is great because I would love to see him in that role because it does. I don't know. I don't want to get into to Reed Richards and all that. That's not what it's about. But you're right. Like those two movies stood out for me. 2026 looks really good. Yeah, and if I'm an investor and I'm hearing like, we want to stabilize. Okay, stabilize. That's 2024. And I'm looking at 2025. It's a combination thereof, right? Some of the stuff of old, some of the stuff that we know is going to do well or potentially do well, like Avatar. Let's not forget about Avatar. Made a lot of money. Well, probably one of the things that saved. I mean, they really bailed out so many other movies from last year or 2 years ago when it released. But then you look at 2026. That's some pretty solid stuff to start off with, right? Toy Story. These are your moneymakers. Toy Story, another Frozen, and then you've got another Star Wars. We're going back into the theaters to see Star Wars in 2026, and it's been it'll be 7 years at that point before we actually went in and got to see, the Star Wars on a big screen.
Yeah, same time as Toy Story, apparently. So the one caution I would put is that this is 2026 and beyond. So it's not necessarily guaranteed that these three are 2026. I know there's a lot of rumors going around that Mandalorian might start shooting this summer, and that seems to be picking up a lot of steam and momentum here in just a few months, but these are 2026 and beyond, so a little bit of caution that it's concrete 2026. I don't know if that's been said specifically. Every time he mentioned, and the few times he even mentioned the Mandalorian and Grogu, was 2026 and beyond, right? So it was never just a hard 2026 date, which makes sense because we're 2 years out, right? So when would that be if it was 2026? Clearly either May or December, right? And probably December, to be honest with you, because
December 31st.
Well, it probably, December 18th, right before Christmas, right? Because you want to capture that Christmas day. The other thing that I think is clear on this slide, and this is how he said it verbatim because they just read this stuff. It says, new Star Wars movie that brings The Mandalorian and Grogu to the big screen for the very first time. It was not called The Mandalorian and Grogu as a movie title. So I'm more convinced than ever that is not going to be the movie title.
My hope is that that's not what it's called as well. They got to come up with a better name, but that's just me. We're not going to get into it. They did release, there's a ton of other stuff on here. They mentioned the Taylor Swift concert coming out next month.
Eras, yeah.
That's going to be huge for Disney Plus. That's an exclusive, like 4 new songs or something on there.
Yeah,
that
an
you haven't
acoustic
heard.
one. Yeah, I mean that's going to be everybody. Their sub numbers. That's why there was 5.5 to 6 million. That's why they're banking on that hardcore. Yeah.
You know what I don't see on here? I thought it was, but it's and I'm going to date myself, but the Shogun movie or the Shogun TV series that's coming out on Hulu.
Yes,
it's a remake. I don't see
this
it on
is
here,
just these are just movies though. Yeah.
Oh, is this theatrical? I thought I had the other one in here too. All right, never
Yeah.
mind.
And
But
again,
yeah,
you see the theatrical releases, they actually stop from a date perspective at the end of 2025. So they don't go any further than that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little squishy right now for that movie. I can't see it going to 2027, but whatever. What do I know? We don't have time to talk about this. This is just more, all the new stuff they've got coming up and the expansion. This is part of that expansion that they touted.
Yeah, there were no specific Star Wars items within the parks that they were talking about. Yeah, here's the Disney Plus and Hulu schedule though.
It's an eyesore. Sorry. Yeah, Shogun's in there. There it is, February 27th. The Taylor Swift Eras is in there. There's Agatha. Just shows this year. I imagine that's going to be around Halloween or in the fall, right? It just feels like that's the right time to release that. More Doctor Who. They've got Skeleton Crew and The Acolyte both sitting there. So we'll see when those come out. And then otherwise, everything else.
For those listening, Acolyte and Skeleton Crew are in the batch that are just sorted alphabetically. They do not have a date. The dates here only extend through April 26th. So clearly Bad Batch is on there for debuting on the 21st of February. And then you've got your other. So it's really only about through the, almost the first half, just through the first third of the year, really.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, look at that. Thank you. Good night. The Bon Jovi story. Holy crap. Pencil me in for that one.
Oh,
It's
seriously?
April 26th.
Well, I mean, and the thing I'm excited about is that very bottom one, your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man animated series. Like it's been a while since we've had a good it's been a while since we've had a dedicated Spider-Man animated series. If you could believe that, it's actually been a while.
Yeah. X-Men 97. Is that on here? That's a good. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
It says early 2024. I heard March, but maybe not. Because we're already mid through February. They'd be advertising at this point. And I think you go into April, it's no longer, quote, early 2024. Right. So process of elimination. All right. Let's switch over to, I guess, something more relevant to Star Wars. And that is the announcement of Disney Epic. So they've invested $1.5 billion into Epic Games. So they're not buying them out. That's a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. $1.5 billion to throw in there. And, it's basically, it's what's considered a minority equity stake in Epic Games. So they'll have a lot of sway and pull in what goes on. And of course, it allows these guys to kind of work out, the use of their characters, the use of the Disney royalties without really having to pay these guys a ton of money. And we'll get into, I have a better picture of this map a little bit because I want to talk about it. But in the map here, when I saw this, it was like, the first thing that came to me was like Ready Player One. Right. The more I thought about it, though, it does feel more like Disney Infinity. It does. So if you ever played Disney Infinity, they did 3 versions of it. The last version was released just after Disney had purchased Star Wars, and so we got a Star Wars set that came with it, and they released a number of figures like Leia and Chewbacca, and I played the hell out of this game and with my kids. I mean, they still will play this thing, even though it's really outdated now. But that was the closest we had to like a Disney universe or a Disney sandbox where you could kind of do whatever you want. I think a lot of people were shocked to find out that they weren't going to come back with a 4, nor did they even go seek, that I'm aware of anyways. They didn't go out and try to find somebody to come back as a third-party publisher because they'd kind of squashed all of their internal development, right? They got away from the development. And it's interesting that they're now coming back to the development. I don't know if it was in this call or something else, but I remember Iger had seen some stats, right? I think he talked about it on the call. He had seen somewhere the amount of time that target audience between whatever it is, 8 and 11 or whatever, are spending playing video games. And so that was pretty like, okay, well, we got to get some of that money. So it's funny that they're kind of coming full circle and kind of going back. Again, they're not internally developing, but they kind of are by investing $1.5 billion into a company to invest with them. I'm going to kind of talk, I want your thoughts on that. And then I want to talk about like my vision or what I can probably see happening with Fortnite. And I know the first thing people come to mind is Fortnite it's a shooter, but it's a lot more than that these days. But your thoughts, I guess, on the announcement in general. I'm
actually glad I didn't get to watch or see the PowerPoint. So this is the first time I've seen this graphic or kind of this image. And again, this is an artist rendition of to get you excited about the visual of it because they don't have any details. But this was really interesting, right? And this could go in when you hear Bob talk about this, and even Hugh, the CFO, when you hear them talk about it, this is really, really big. Like they are creating a universe that this isn't creating Fortnite, right? This is like it's like a door. There's a door that leads you to Fortnite from this universe, but this is going to be a place where you can create things, you can watch things, you can interact, you can go shopping digitally, maybe even physical goods. There are so many different things, and we have to remember Epic owns the Unreal Engine, so there's a lot of you could almost feel like they had something more they wanted to say, or there's more. Like this is a really ambitious project, and they only scratched the surface about how ambitious it could truly be, right? And so there's a lot that they could do with this partnership, and like you said, from an Epic Games perspective, they have open license now for all the Disney stuff, and for Disney, you've got a partner that you trust, that you've been very successful with, that have produced numbers. They perform, right? So performance is important in the Disney era right now. And so you've got this trust and this relationship of working with Tim Sweeney, the founder and CEO over at Epic, that you can now bring these together and you feel like you can develop a really super ambitious project. Both companies stable, producing, popular, really marketable from from all sorts of different ways. But this is a project, though, that they could really do a lot of different things with. I'm curious to hear what you think, because you're much more imaginative with this stuff than I am. But the way that they were talking about it, though, just really, it blew my mind, like what was possible with this. And I was like, I don't know how the hell this is actually all going to fit together, though.
Yeah, and I'm playing the trailer right now. So this is the trailer they released as well. I don't think this came out on this wasn't part of the earnings call.
Right.
It was released around the same time. So it starts here, which I think is Nowhere, maybe. I think this is probably Marvel Nowhere from Guardians of the Galaxy. If not, it could be Star Wars, but I can't really tell what the heck that is, if it's supposed to be a Star Destroyer or somewhere. Anyways, it says, what is it? Discover a place where magic is epic is really what we're seeing. So there's Star Wars. We saw Avatar. They throw up the Fortnite logo. Then they throw Marvel in here. Let me back this up real quick, just so you can see this. So what we've got going on here in Fortnite, that looks like the Gungan shield on the top there. So, and some of this stuff is already happening. What's that?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah,
kind of. In the game itself, there's a bubble that kind of collapses, and this could be it as well. I think it doesn't really look like that, because if you're outside the bubble, then you get hurt. All right, I don't want to get into the game, but I played the game, so. But yeah, so you got that going on. You got the Marvel stuff. You got Disney. You've got Pixar. You've got Lightning McQueen there riding around. So this is from Rocket League.
That's Rocket League. Yeah, that's awesome.
And so the character, Lightning McQueen's already in. You can get him as a skin in the game. You can play that already. So this is nothing new, but they could take it one step further if they wanted to. So they showed that. There's a quick shot here. You see the Mjolnir, or not, I forget what the name of that one is.
Stormbreaker.
Yep. Stormbreaker. And then you got, Captain America's shield, et cetera, et cetera. He's got the Iron Man hands on there, the Hawkeye bow, compound bow. It says a new universe. And look at right there. So then we got Harrison Ford going in there. Or
Indiana Jones. Yeah.
It's the same person to me. Darth Vader. Right. All this is exciting. Somebody, I forget that's from,
that's Elsa. Yeah, Elsa.
And then they got another picture of that. And then they show Fortnite, Star Wars, Pixar, Marvel, Disney Plus Epic. Play games, create, shop, like you mentioned. That's interesting. Soon-ish. And that's how it ends. So where I wanted to go with this is when you think of Fortnite, you think it's a shooter, right? They've just recently released a Lego kind of expansion, if you will. I don't know if that's the right term or not. And in that expansion, they've now taken this game. It's basically a sandbox game. You can do whatever you want. So yeah, it started off as a battle arena kind of shooting kind of thing, right? And now it's expanded into basically Lego Fortnite is Minecraft. You go around, you build, you survive. It's almost like a survivor game. You have to build stuff and you have to eat, right? They've incorporated a lot of those game mechanics into it. And so you're not going around just shooting people. You're just trying to survive in this Lego world. It is awesome. It is so much fun to play. And because it's an open engine, because they can kind of do whatever they want, this really opens up a lot of possibilities. If they want to make a racer out of this game, they could make a racer. If they want to make an adventure game, they can make an adventure game. Could they do an RPG? Sure. If they could incorporate a first-person shooter, right? They can do whatever they want with this engine. And in bringing all of these different characters in, you have something very similar to what we had with Disney Infinity. Now I'm going to switch back over because I want to go back to the picture because I want to show you some of the stuff that they actually showed us in the picture. There's some little Easter eggs in there. And again, it's an artist's rendition. You're absolutely right on that. But I think this is essentially what the vision is of what they're trying to do. Let me go back to, did I not include this? Oh, here it is. Nope, that's not it. Boy, I hope I got the picture in here. If not, I'm going to get it. Okay, I don't have the picture. Hold on, I'm going to grab it. But yeah, so what they've done is in the image or in the picture here itself. Let me pull this up so I can show this for now, and then we'll go into the. I'll pull up the other image here in just a second. So if you look on here, okay, so in the background here,
You have to share your screen.
oh, sorry, hold on, sorry. Let me know that's it.
I feel like I'm at work now.
Yeah, you're on mute. Can you please go on mute if you're not talking? So if you go to, if we go back to the image again. Okay, so I'll pull up the bigger frame of this one in just a second. The back here on the Lucasfilm, you can kind of, so this is where I felt like it was kind of like a Ready Player One kind of thing, right? You can kind of go to these different worlds, and within each world, you can kind of live in that. Imagine like a virtual theme park, if you will. And that's not
like
even
Wreck-It Ralph almost, yeah.
That's, and it's funny because if you look down here in the bottom part, there's a Wreck-It Ralph's tower right there. Yeah. You've got Batu on the just to the right of that. You can see what looks. I can't tell if this is. It's probably Rocket League, but there's a track that goes all around all of this, and you've got X-wing fighters, you've got TIE fighters, you've got the Razor Crest down here in the bottom left. Monsters University is over here. You've got Nightmare Before Christmas up there at the very top. You've got Stark Towers.
Is that like and then Hoth at the very top?
You've got the Battle of Hoth going on, right? So, you know, it could be one of these games where you just, you know, casually like, oh, I'm going to pop out of this game and I'm going to jump over and play some, you know, the essentially Battlefront 2, maybe some version of Battlefront 2, if you want to call it that, where you're, you know, fighting on the Battle of Hoth. The top left here, you've got like these, like the companies, right? So you got ESPN, Marvel, you got Lucasfilm. You can see the Millennium Falcons just kind of parked right outside there next to Lucasfilm. You got 20th Century going on there with the searchlights, which I thought was a nice little touch there. You've got Pixar going on here. And then, I was trying to find some of the other stuff. So there's, they have a picture here of Stitch's ship coming in. And then you can't really see it, but top left-hand corner, or you can't, it's kind of hidden, but there's a Nowhere, right? So Nowhere from Guardians of the Galaxy, that's kind of its own little place that you could visit. And so, again, the whole point of this, though, is just being able to kind of jump in and out of these different worlds, jump in and out of these different games. Again, I hate to go back to Ready Player One, but that's essentially what this was, right? Maybe somebody had the vision when they saw that movie and said, well, look at all these cool worlds and they're all kind of connected and you can just kind of go in between. The really nice thing is, what if all of these IPs, what if all of your gear, the stuff that you buy, the accessories and everything, what if that transfers to each game? You know what I mean? So like, let's say you go buy an outfit, a costume or a skin or whatever for one game, you can wear that all throughout the entire park, right? If you want to. So you don't have to go and buy a skin for this game and then you have to go buy it again for this one, or you can mix and match, which I think is what they were kind of alluding to when they showed the Fortnite stuff. But with the Epic engine, with the Fortnite premise and then just the open box creativity, it's really open to just anything that you possibly can imagine. And I can see why they would want to invest so heavily in this, because they're not locked into a particular game, right? They're not locking themselves into a particular genre of sorts. It's kind of whatever they want to do at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you think about,
give me your thoughts on this, and I'll try to pull up the full image here.
Yeah, I mean, and you think about content distribution too, right? So this doesn't have to be limited to just more of a game mechanic type of thing. And I like you said Minecraft before, because I think that's where my mind originally went was, okay, they can recreate a Minecraft. I mean, when you talk about creating, right? Minecraft is just founded on that, but it's this huge social creature too that I think doesn't always get enough credit for unless you've played it and seen it kind of in action, or if you know people that do it as a group. But what I like about it is like they talked about content. And if you think about some of the features that Disney Plus and Amazon Prime and things like, they have that watch together functionality.
Yeah.
Like this type of environment, you could see where that is very easily connected to where you could bring that. And to your point, when you kind of kicked off the segment, was when you look at the time spent in front of a video game machine, it was equal within those age groups. It was equal to what they spend like doing TV and movies and all of that, I think combined. So it's roughly equal. And so you see why they get so energized about that, because you're saying, oh, wow, they're in front of something resembling a video game, device for as much time as they're consuming anything else that we're doing. How do I leverage that? And I'll say the word exploit, but hopefully everyone gets my point of like, how do I get in bed and get involved with that and get embedded into the way that they want to consume content and make sure I can distribute to them in that way and do it within the framework that they want to be, right? So they want to be in a game. Okay, you're always in a game. And this is where the Ready Player One is such a fantastic, comparison, because you're within the game, but you can go and watch a movie, right? So you could almost do like you could go, hey, meet me at the Lucasfilm screening room, and let's go watch Bad Batch this week. And let's go do it. Hey, all the Cantina Cast listeners, meet us over in the Lucasfilm screening room, and we're going to watch Bad Batch season 1, 2, and 3 this week. How cool would that be? I mean, there's options to some of the stuff that you could have in a more immersive way. And when you talk about things like virtual reality and what Apple has released recently, and some of the things where that's been steering and going, I know some of those exist, but they don't have a way of really curating or really protecting people in some of that. You know that Disney is going to want to put some of those things in place. Now, I'm not saying that Fortnite is a community of upstanding and no filthy language or inappropriate comments or anything like that, because we all know different with shooters. But, Disney, I think, will try to protect some of that and have areas that are, here's where these areas are maybe a little more adult oriented. Here are the areas that are saved for 13 and under, things like that. So I think there'd be a way to do it. But I get really excited about just virtual movie theaters and that type of thing. I mean, how cool would that be? I mean, that would really piss off the movie theaters if you started doing this, theatrical release through a game. But those are the things I get more excited about than the actual gaming component of it. Is how do you build these virtual environments that help you connect with people and spend time and share time with each other that are really difficult to if you don't live near each other, if you have family that live overseas or other side of the country or something like that.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. And you brought up the virtual headset, right? The Apple Vision Pro.
Right.
It's probably too soon to say that they're going to do anything right now. That does seem more augmented reality than immersive 3D. They've got the Disney. I think if you remember when they announced it, right, they had Bob Iger walk out on as part of their promotional video, launch video, and he said, "Hey, we've got some exciting things. Here's just a look at some of the things that we're trying to do or we're thinking about doing with it." And so there is a relationship, of course, between Apple and Disney. Definitely, it looks like they're excited about this headset as well. Whether that translates into this or not, I don't know. But to your point's well taken. Just the idea of collaborating, being able to play in this kind of shared space, open world environment, this virtual theme park, if you will, is pretty darn exciting. And you've got as many people as you do playing Fortnite right now, which is massive. I don't even know what the number is these days, but it's one of the larger games, if not the largest.
And it's a cash cow.
Minecraft. It's just
a cash cow, yeah.
Oh yeah, I can't tell you how much money I spend on V-Bucks every month. Not me personally,
right?
But my leeches that live here in the house is right.
Your RPU is through the roof. Yeah,
exactly. RPU is through the roof.
Yeah,
that's
right. But this is the thing you're going to see though. They're leveraging those partnerships, and so I think that's where like Apple is on the table, right? And they have histories of working together with Steve Jobs and of course Pixar and things like that. But I mean, those are partnerships that they can make investments in. Each company can do well and bring what they do well to the table without having to take all the risk and say, I need to stand this up as a Disney game or, some sort of Disney shop. Maybe they choose to do that at some point, but how do we leverage the partnerships and do what we do each well and have a JV or a joint venture or something like that? We have these partnerships like what they're doing here with Epic that says we can leverage the best of both worlds and really get something of immense value that people will be interested in and want and would find interesting to really invest in in the long term, not just a normal subscription, but give people a lot of, ad hoc ability to do what they want to do. And it's a money generator as well. And, we could say that, it's just another money generator. Well, yeah, of course it is a money generator, but do you get anything out of it? There has to be a good value proposition for people.
So I was able to finally pull this stinking thing up. So you can see the Death Star up here also. The Death Star's there. You've got, I can't remember if that's a Star Destroyer. There's a Star Destroyer back here. I don't remember what that was. I don't think it looks like a Mon Calamari ship flying there.
Is that Avatar on the top right as well?
Yep, Avatar on the top right. So you see Pandora, some part of Pandora. I think this is Frozen up here in the top left-hand corner, the world itself. Don't know what that one is here in the middle. It's kind of a in between Hoth and whatever that's going on there. So, you know, just being able to kind of bring it back to Star Wars, right? If they could do something like they did with Disney Infinity, like something like they did with Battlefront 2, where you can kind of venture off and, you know, virtually walk around what Alderaan looked like at one point, you know, as part of the game, right? If someone came in and just recreated that, we kind of have that in some of other games right now, but not to there aren't that many people playing SWTOR as they are playing Fortnite.
Right.
So yeah, it's, you know, the possibilities are endless. That's why I really think it does feel very similar to what they were trying to do with Disney Infinity, with you know, now kind of handing over the heavy lifting to somebody like Epic Games, who does an amazing job at that part, right? They have that under control, and there's already been a relationship. So if anybody doesn't know, this isn't the first time that they're doing this. This isn't just like a new partnership. Mando's been out, you know, they've done some other skins already. They had a Vader one. I'd say that it's been a ongoing relationship, but yeah, it's just the possibilities that this engine brings and the possibilities that Fortnite brings to expanding beyond just the battle arena type stuff. Yeah, it's pretty intriguing and exciting to hear.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, make no mistake, $1.5 billion is a lot of money.
Yeah.
And you know, for a minority stake or a minority kind of partnership, it's a lot of money, but they've proven that these types of things can be these incremental dollars that you can get from groups and games. I saw you had some skins from Rocket League, a Boba Fett car or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those types of things, those go a long way because people love customization. People love network. Continued to stress that entire time was very much really heavy customization and personalization. People want to feel unique. They want to express themselves. They want to express their fandom. We live in a time that is really amazing for that kind of thing, right? There was a time where it was not cool to express your fandom, but now we have a very cool, yeah, there you go. Mandalorian Mayhem with Rocket League. I'm excited about this. You got like a Bo-Katan car? You got basically a Mandalorian minivan.
Well, I think it's like the Falcon. Yeah, it's like the Razor Crest, but in a minivan form or a SUV form. Yeah,
with Grogu for a topper. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
And then you have Boba Fett for a car.
So that is a luggage rack.
Luggage rack.
So
in Rocket League, it's called a topper, Albert.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
I'm familiar with the Rocket League language.
So yeah, this is just I brought this up as an example. This wasn't announced here as part of this, but just an example of some of the stuff they're already doing to kind of blend.
People love this stuff, man. Yeah, they love it.
So kind of let's end on, I guess, our final thoughts here. You know, what this means for Star Wars. I mean, we talked about it feels like we're stabilized, right? So the bleeding has stopped. The parks are certainly doing all the heavy lifting right now in terms of finance, but things look pretty bright in terms of the subscriber front. There's definitely great content coming out. So, you know, do we see Star Wars? Do we see new announcements for any series coming up? Right? We haven't had any new announcements for a new series here in a little bit now. Is that potentially going to be on the heels of something like this? Or do they take a more conservative approach and say, okay, well, you know, let's see how Acolyte does. Let's see how Skeleton Crew does before we get too far into that. And then, you know, we've gotten a number of movies that have been touted that are, quote, you know, in pre-production and have been greenlit, but yet they're, you know, we're looking at 2026 potentially as the start time for Mando and Grogu. So, you know, where does that put the movie front at? You know, that could be as late as 2028, 2029, if you think about it.
Yeah.
That seems too far for me, but go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's too far for all of us. Yeah. I mean, it's a good question because, I mean, there were a lot of things they did not mention. And again, it was just a 1 quarter earnings call. They try to get these done in about 40 minutes. So they have 20 minutes because there's investors on the call, right? All of your Bank of Americas and your Capital Ones and whatever else want to ask all of the boring questions. But there weren't a lot of things with Star Wars, but that shouldn't necessarily be surprising. We got a little bit, but there's a lot of content out there that we know is coming and we just don't have an idea when. And so the subsequent calls later this year will be more interesting to see if we get any tidbits as that calendar starts to flush out the rest of 2024 and we start to get more certainty around 25 and 26, right? And then we start to flirt with 27. So we know that we've still got Ahsoka 2, season 2, you know, that'll eventually start to get an idea for a date. Tales of the Jedi season 2, Vision season 3. You know, is there going to be any kind of other Mandalorian content? We don't know, or maybe even Book of Boba Fett, that type of thing. We also know Andor is just around the corner as well. Andor is probably pushing a bit towards 2025, though. So Yeah, you have all of these. So I think those are ones that we'll be leaning on. But I think one thing is very clear, though, is that, the production cycle for Disney is going to be, I'm not going to say slow or anything like that, but it's going to be much more deliberate. And I think these are words that we've used in the past last year of saying that deliberate is good. That means you've got a plan. You feel good about the plan. You've invested in it. It's got a lot of review. You feel like you start to build confidence back with your with the talent. They need that confidence to be built up too. And you got to build credibility back with your audiences that says when Disney puts a movie out there, like Disney's used to be in the top at the movie theater, like for the years, right? Like every year they're the top grossing studio. For them to slip to number 2 last year, you can imagine was a really big hit to the ego and the confidence, and really big hit to credibility with audiences, and whether you love the shows or not, and they didn't perform to their standards. And so those are the things that have to go. So that deliberate schedule and a bit more of a reserved type of format, not having a screen full of Marvel movies, is going to be the way forward, I think, for us, so to speak. But we need some Star Wars sprinkled in here too, right? I think we need a little more certainty around when is the Mando movie going to come out. I would love to see 2026. I think 2027 starts to feel a little ways away. But give us a little certainty. For them not to talk about Rey in that movie at all, and Daisy Ridley,
Kind of weird.
was a little surprising. Yeah, that was one I thought would have been at least name dropped, even though if there may not have been any certainty, but putting it in that 2026 and beyond bucket.
Sure.
Why not? Or are they just trying to no, we just didn't have enough in there. But then they give us this big long Excel spreadsheet in the PowerPoint, and like nothing's in there either. So those types of things don't make a lot of sense to me. But earnings calls, again, have to be somewhat tight. There are going to be casualties in some of that. But for them to only drop a few Star Wars, I think they were trying to show the breadth of their portfolio across all of their IPs, to say, hey, you're going to get a lot of things that you recognize, and we need to get a lot of that on there. So I'm not putting a lot of stock in that there wasn't a lot of Star Wars. That means there's not a lot of Star Wars in development, because we just know that's not true. There's a lot of Star Wars in development. That's going to happen. You have to have ideas, but they needed to show, hey, you know what Zootopia is. Hey, you know what Moana is. You know what Frozen is. You know what all these are. Hey, they're all coming. Get excited. Disney's back, baby. That type of thing.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, they can't go and say, well, I want to invest in the Star Wars stuff. No, it's kind of all or nothing, and here's all of it, right? So some stuff is going to have to slip through. I do find it weird, though, that they didn't announce the main movie, the Rey movie. They did not really mention some of the series that we know have been in production for a very long time, and are slotted to release this year at some point. I mean, they kind of put them in the chart, but they weren't really highlighted. So I don't really put a lot of stock in that's like a warning sign by any means, but I just thought it was weird. I think where I'm going with this is like, yeah, you're right. I think we'll probably get through a lot of the stuff that's been planned. They'll execute, they'll release it, and then we'll see. Maybe by the end of the year, they might announce something new. I say that, and we started the show by talking about potentially a Kenobi 2 announcement. Right. But I think if they are going to do anything, I don't think they'll go to try to announce anything new, like a new Star Wars show, right? They're going to stick with everything they've already released or had planned. And then, is a Kenobi 2 safe? Yeah, probably. We're all familiar with it. It's not a big announcement, right? So I expect that to kind of continue. And then we'll see. I mean, there's a lot still to come here this year. This isn't the only announcement we're going to get. We're going to have more announcements. We got 3 more calls that'll happen here. They'll do something at some point. Disney will make an announcement. Lucasfilm will announce some stuff. There's the Indiana Jones front. I know they're trying to do a lot more with the IP there. So, with the video game coming out, he's getting incorporated into the Epic Games stuff. We'll see where, if they want to expand that further. But all I'm saying is there's a lot more still coming. There's a lot of the year left, right? For them to announce more stuff, new IPs and et cetera.
Yeah, I think you and I both agree there seems to become something coming around May the 4th. That's probably beyond just the Phantom Menace 25th anniversary reissue to the theaters. It kind of feels like they were ending Bad Batch intentionally right before May in order to make room for something. So, or at least not to cannibalize maybe some of the movie theater stuff. But so it feels like there's something going on there. So we're going to get more, and we're getting something right now with Bad Batch. So I think we're satiated for a time, but you need to make sure you keep your fan base energized too. Of here's what's coming next. Here's what you can anticipate, and when you can anticipate it, and then delivering on that promise.
Yep. All right. Well, there you go. there's our take on the earnings call and what we know about Disney, which I don't know if really is a whole lot, but Jonesy knows more than I do. But hey, before we get out of here, first off, thanks everybody for being here on the live cast. Jonesy, I know you wanted to give some shout outs to those folks.
Yeah, you know who delivers on their promise each and every week is all of our amazing Patreon members. So again, thank you to all of our Patreon folks and to those who joined us in the live stream today. My Star Wars guys, Steph, Skywalker's Academy, One Up for the CPU, and all those in the background. We see you back there. Thank you so much for coming in. We do appreciate it. We hope you've enjoyed this. We know it's a little bit different than what we normally do. It's a little more financially driven and kind of company oriented. But yeah, it's important to take a step back and look at these things. So thanks for sticking with us. Thanks for joining. We hope you learned a little bit if you don't want to listen to an hour-long earnings call. We're a little more exciting than that, but only a little bit.
We have better visuals than stinking PowerPoint they did.
Our visuals are not any poorer than what they had at the very least. And they get to see us fumble a little bit. So we need to work on our showmanship, I guess, a little bit. But yeah.
Very consistent in that poor quality. So you got that going for you. Hey, don't forget, if you want to check out all these videos, head out to cantinacast.com/YouTube or YouTube/CantinaCast, however you want to get there. Please like, subscribe, and make a comment down below. If you got a question or something, all that helps, honestly, to get the visibility out there. We certainly would appreciate that. And don't forget, if you guys are interested in Patreon, head out to cantinacast.com/Patreon. Sign up there for as little as $2. And we have years of back catalog stuff that's exclusive to Patreon members, whether you're into audio, video, comic books, video games, you name it. It's sitting there. You got to go find it sometimes, but we're working on that.
So the collection stuff that we're able to add out there is really cool. We set up another one for Bad Batch just recently as well. So you could see all of our previous Bad Batch coverage, all the deep dives over the last couple of years. So lots of great stuff in there. We're trying to make it more manageable for you to go find what you need, especially if it's Mike Rondo and Chewie and the Porgs. We're always happy to make that available to you. Just PM me and we'll figure it out. But yeah, lots of great stuff out there for you guys to enjoy. Even if you're a new subscriber, there's a little of everything for everyone.
Yeah. And
actually, there's a lot of everything for everyone out there.
There's a lot of everything for everyone. To be fair, they just introduced that feature not that too long ago, so it wasn't
just a few months ago. Yeah, and we've already got. I think we're up around close to 10 collections or something like that. Maybe not quite that, but close.
Yep.
So Ahsoka stuff, Bad Batch, the Skywalker saga. I mean, all of your favorite stuff, the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. So a lot of good stuff out there.
I even made a Mortis category just for Mortis.
Wow.
Hey, also the last thing, programming notes. So no show this weekend because it's Taylor Swift weekend, aka the Super Bowl, and which I actually have a shirt that's being made for me that has the Chiefs stuff on the back and it talks about Taylor Swift and it's got a number on the back. I'll take a picture and post it on Patreon. Super excited about that T-shirt.
How does Ed feel about that as a 49ers fan?
I don't know. And then, so we've got that coming out. So no show this weekend for that. And then next Thursday, Jonesy and I will be back to do the final hype show. So it's a time tradition here. We'll do our Bad Batch season 3 final hype show, talk about everything that we know so far going into that show. And then kind of, maybe throw some predictions out there about what we expect to see, or at least what we hope to see in season 3. We'll definitely be talking about the little 1-minute clip that was released today. And I imagine between now and release, we're going to get more and more of these clips, which are just going to continue to break your heart. I guarantee you.
I'm not okay, Albert. I'm not okay. I don't know. I don't like where this is going.
Yeah. Well, you've got till Thursday to get better. So
I will pull it together.
Yeah. Pull it together. All right, guys. We'll see you then. Thanks, care. Take care and see you soon.
You're still listening? Wow, that's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.